Welcome, everybody.
Hello, welcome to VMUG's global virtual event. I'm Pankaj Gupta. Today we'll be talking about evolution of platform engineering. As you know, that platform engineering started in 2017 and 2018 with primary objective of increasing the developer productivity and especially for Kubernetes or modern applications. Since then, it has become a de facto standard for a lot of IT organizations. But there are fundamental forces that are asking for platform engineering to evolve, especially in this new AI and agentic era. So today we'll be talking about that how platform engineering has to evolve to the next phase, and infrastructure plays a very critical role, and each one of you are responsible or leading the infrastructure in your organization. So this is a very timely discussion for you to learn that where platform engineering has to go next, how to get the seat at table in the platform engineering into your organization. And this session has been exclusively designed for VMUG audience today. Let me introduce today's two speakers. One of them is, of course, me. I'm a senior director of private cloud solutions and have worked or had a privilege to work with VMUG community for last 3 or 4 years in various capacities. So very humbled being part of such a large and astonishing community of practitioners over here. Along with me, we have Sam Berlin. He is the head of ecosystem and contribution of platformengineering.org, which is the largest community of platform engineering with more than 280,000 members into that. And Broadcom and platformengineering.org has partnered to build the direction and vision where the platform engineering has to go to the next for that. We have recently published a white paper, which you will see towards the end, which you can scan and download and read it after the event for that, and that will give you more details inside. Sam, welcome to the webinar.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here. Always love talking to the VMUG audience.
We have a pretty packed agenda. We start with the state of platform engineering today and why platform engineering 2.0 is necessary and why it is necessary now and what are the ceilings of platform engineering is being hit now or in near future and what are the drivers demanding or needing for platform engineering to evolve for that. You will hear from our expert Sam Berlin to talk about this too. He has been there for since beginning of the origin of platform engineering, so we'll hear from them. Then I will come and talk about what are the 5 pillars of platform engineering 2.0 and how it affects and how it evolves your infrastructure. And then towards the end, we will have a strategic recommendation for 3 audiences. Number one, the executives inside your organization. The second one is the platform engineering teams. And third is you as a VMUG members. How platform engineering evolves you with more enhanced skill set and be a catalyst of change inside your organization. This session is on the request from the VMUG board where upskilling the VMUG members is very critical part for enhancing their skills for modern applications and platform engineering. So we are pretty delighted to talk about these things today. We have a very packed agenda. Sam, floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Pankaj. So, as you know, Pankaj has just highlighted, there's a lot to talk about today. And I think an important place to start, especially because we're here with the VMUG audience, and not all of you might be platform engineers already or super familiar with platform engineering. So I want to start by kind of introducing really what we mean when we talk about platform engineering. So very simply, platform engineering is the application of product management principles to an internal service workflow operation. It's a very simple framing for it. And that was something that really emerged over the last few years to solve a lot of the challenges we were facing that came from the massive inflection of containerization, from infrastructure as code, from a lot of the DevOps principles, which all bring very fantastic things, but led to a significant amount of cognitive overload. It was a very difficult time for application developers. We saw a huge phenomenon called DevOps burnout, where people were starting to get very overwhelmed. And so platform engineering came into the mix to really massively index more on cognitive load and developer experience. Now, years ago, when I first started talking about platform engineering, most people asked me, oh, what is a platform? Why does this matter? Now, that conversation has completely changed. Looking at it from 2026, platform engineering is not an optional thing. It's not a question mark thing. It's a universal thing at this point. It really is the standard. I've got some fantastic numbers here from the state of AI and platform engineering, from the state of platform engineering, and also from the DORA report 2025. And that's 90% of organizations have already adopted platform engineering. They're doing this in many ways because they see a high quality internal platform as essential to AI success. And as we all know, AI is really the fundamental technology of today. And many organizations are realizing if you want to succeed with AI, then you need to have a platform. And thus we see 90% of organizations are building these internal platforms. We're also seeing that 76% have a dedicated platform team, and 80% confirm that number that I talk around the intersection of AI and platform, and 70% are measuring success from their platforms. So, like we say in the headline, adoption as a question mark is not really a question anymore. It's solved. Everyone is adopting this as a practice, and everyone has been adopting this as a practice. But adoption at this stage maybe isn't enough. And if you could switch to the next slide, Pankaj, I'll go into why. When we grew platform engineering over the last few years, there was a few really fundamental things that we focused on. Now, I talked about it was about reducing cognitive load on application developers. So that was done by providing self-surface infrastructure, standardized golden paths, and an internal developer platform designed to solve these points. That came from, this really creating opinionated pre-approved templates, thinking about, okay, how can we take a super clunky complicated Kubernetes or IAC setup and make this more standardized, make this more easy? Can we use interfaces? Can we reduce the way that we're working with tickets and make it a little bit more effective for the developer so that they're not just super overloaded with loads of different tools and complicated stuff. And at the same time, we solved, I think, one of the biggest or came up with the solutions for what I think is one of the biggest drivers of cognitive load for many developers was the, effective, but sometimes I think misguided idea of shifting left security. Now, shifting left security, obviously, great idea, makes sense. But what it often did in many organizations was create a huge amount of mental load and issues for the developer themselves. And platform engineering was great at reframing how to solve this and thinking of it in different ways. So we had a lot of fantastic achievements, month over month as the industry matured. Now, as we have started to look at, we maybe are not exactly where we need to be for the future. So clearly, this was fantastic for the era that it was from. That's why we hit 90% adoption. But as our kind of industry starts to change, and I think none of us, particularly you in the VMUG community, would deny, we're in an era of great change. So there's a few things that are putting pressure on this world of platform engineering that I have known and that we've all known over the last few years. And if you move to the next slide, Pankaj. There's a few ceilings with the way that platform engineering has been adopted over the last couple of years and in most organizations. If you remember when I talked about some of the big achievements of platform engineering a few slides back, well, I only talked about the application developer, and I only really talked about reducing cognitive load and building, kind of interfaces for things like containerization and IAC, excuse me. I didn't mention AI at all. So the majority of platforms are built kind of AI blind, really. They don't have anything related to GPUs or TPU workloads. There's nothing around model serving. MCPs are obviously not involved in them. And even, the utilization of AI for platforms. So the most fantastic, effective platform from 2 years ago, if it stayed steady state, which many have, is completely missing everything that it needs for the AI era. At the same time, to reiterate, I only talked about application developers. That's just one persona. Well, platforms really at this stage serve many, many, many personas in the organization. They need to be serving security, data engineers. They need to be talking about machine learning, business personas, FinOps, maybe even AI agents. You know, platforms shouldn't only focus on developers. And that is something that many platforms of the past over-index on. And at the same time, many platforms were built to serve these kind of singular purposes. So you might have built a host of golden paths, and then now, okay, well, maybe this golden path is working a little bit like a golden cage. Maybe your platform has been a bit reactive and isn't really growing and changing the way that it needs to. At the same time, these platforms are being built for a different era. They're not being built in this day and age when we have a much, much, much stronger focus on sovereignty, on, of course, compliance is always a thing, but compliance and security questions today compared to 3 years ago, it's a completely different ballgame. And so the platform that was really perfect 2 years ago, if it hasn't changed quite radically, then it's really, I think, facing some issues. And because of quite a number of things, putting pressure on many modern platforms. Pankaj, if you could move to the next slide. And those are some of these forces that we've identified in our paper that are really putting pressure on platform teams. And I have the luxury of talking to literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of platform engineering leaders, platform engineers all across the world. I attend many conferences, do roundtables, just grill platform teams and ask them about their problems. And almost every single one, I'll say 95%, mentioned these points that are really putting pressure on them as a team. The first is, of course, AI-driven coding acceleration. Every single one of you here, I don't think there's a single person. And if there is one of you who isn't experiencing this, I'd be curious to hear about what your life is like. But at this stage, 90% of developers are using AI tools. They're now generating 2 to 10 times more code. That means they need 2 to 10 times more pipeline throughput. And many organizations are really struggling, and many platforms are maybe not necessarily designed for this deluge of new code. At the same time, we have a completely new persona. We have a completely new paradigm. We're looking at an agentic future. There is an exponential growth of AI agents, but many platforms are not designed to serve them. Apps are embedding autonomous AI agents, and platforms are next. Well, these agents need GPU, TPU allocation. They need guardrails. They need audits. They need, many of the things that these platforms might not have yet. And at the same time, all of that brings cost. All of that code brings new cost with it. All those agents bring new cost with it. And at the same time, cloud spend hasn't gone away. 35% of cloud spend is wasted. And so when you're looking at already a challenging environment in regards to cloud spend, you're now adding in a huge amount of costs related to token spend, tokenomics, particularly, and maybe even the spending on the GPU, TPU side in relation to your own AI initiatives. And so the types of FinOps that we've done in the past does not work today. You can't just do a retrospective, monthly FinOps review. If you do that, you're going to wake up one day and you're going to review, oh, uh-oh, we accidentally blew maybe a couple million more than we thought. Whoops. That's just not how it works. At the same time, we are in a new paradigm when it comes to sovereignty and compliance. Basically, every conversation, look, I live in Europe. We've always loved compliance. It's one of our favorite topics. But it's a big sign when even the people outside of Europe are talking about compliance. When you have people in the US, in New Zealand, in Australia, in the UK talking about compliance, it's a big topic. And especially when we look at things like AI and the sovereignty question, well, that's putting a lot of pressure on a lot of platform teams who maybe weren't thinking about that too closely. And then, of course, at the same time, what I mentioned just before, your platform is just not going to serve only application developers any longer. It's impossible. It's going to be serving machine learning engineers, data scientists, FinOps. It's going to be serving all those agents. It's not possible to have a platform that only serves one persona. So what if your platform team isn't ready for that? What if your platform isn't ready for that? So there's a lot of forces putting pressure on platform teams at the moment. If you can move to the next slide, Pankaj. There's a few things that really are changing the way that we've looked at platforms over the last few years. And each of these stages have introduced massive challenges and massive opportunities. And I think that's a really important thing here. Everything that I've said is not a warning, it's an opportunity. This is something that is a fantastic moment for you as for a member of the VMUG community to really start thinking about, well, all of these things are the things of the future. Agents in the agentic world, so much of the relation of how we think about, tokens and tokenomics, the way we think about compliance and sovereignty. If those are the domains of the platform team, that's probably a place that you would really want to be in and really be able to shape and learn from. And you see this over time as we've evolved in the platform engineering space. We started in the DevOps era, then the main world of platforms that we all understand, and then now this inflection point that we're in. And inflection points are scary, but inflection points are also massive, massive opportunities. And for all of you really watching this in the VMUG community, there really is no better time and opportunity, I think, than embracing this inflection point. There's no better time to be thinking about it, especially as we move into the evolution of platform engineering. This evolution needs new people to come into it. And there's a few fundamental layers within that new evolution. I think it's key to understand. It's going to be AI native. It's going to be autonomous, business aligned. It's going to maintain those key fundamentals like platform as a product that I talked about before, but it's going to evolve for a new era. And I think that's a great place to really understand and think about this. So over to the next slide, Pankaj, and over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Sam, for such a great insight that the origin of platform engineering, where it is today, what are the ceilings it is hitting, and what are the driving forces requiring the platform engineering to evolve. A few things over here before we go to the pillars. The number one is that we have expert panel hosted by Jad and uh, Aditi and Stuart. So if you have any questions, feel free to put your questions in the Q&A window, and our team of experts will answer those questions absolutely for you. The second thing is that before we go into the pillars of platform engineering 2.0, it is an evolution. It is not a reset. This is the evolution of infrastructure. It is an evolution of or modernization of infrastructure. So it builds on the substrate with platform engineering 1.0 has provided to the organizations for that. That's a very, very critical point to understand. And many of you have been the part of the platform engineering 1.0 or the infrastructure which build the IDP 1.0. Next phase is going to how do I evolve to the platform engineering? By looking at the narrative, what Sam just talked about, these five pillars of framework is very, very obvious for that. The number one is the AI native platform, that the platform which were originally designed to just support the Kubernetes had no visibility into the GPUs, TPUs, and the ecosystem which is required. That had to support the AI native to the platform, and we will go more into details into that. The second one is the multi-persona experience. The original platform were designed to achieve or take care of one persona, which was the developers for that. But there are many personas who will take a benefit and use the platform for that. And there has to be specific needs for each of the personas which platform 2.0 has to fulfill with that. That's the second one. The third one is the platform engineering 1.0. The FinOps was a rear view mirror. It was a reactive rather than the proactive for that. And where it has to go, it has to embed the FinOps into that, has to have more proactive. That's what we'll have a more discussion into that. The platform engineering 1.0, as Sam talked about, the pipeline gave the mechanism to shift security towards the left and make developer responsible for them by putting the code scanning tools like SAST and DST tools for that. But if most of the vulnerabilities are found post-production over here, that means that you have to shift security deep into the platform for that. And security shift down is not a replacement for shift left. It is the complementing the shift left security for that. Second thing, which is also very critical in this pillar, that how AI is widening the security gap for that, how the platform has to mitigate into that. So that's a second part of the conversation in security shift down. And the last one is not nothing something new. I'm sure in your great career you heard about the composable or modularity or flexibility. Here, the composability is much more critical now when a lot of fast experimentation is happening. But there are new concepts which we have to look at in the platform engineering is the repavability, how fast you can rebuild the platform for that. So those are the five pillars with that. But one important part is that these pillars are not standalone. They work together for that. That brings the power of platform 2.0. But the foundation under that is the infrastructure. The infrastructure is the unified substrate beneath all the five platform. And as you as a VMUG member are responsible for platform layer or the infrastructure layer. So you are best suited to know that what market direction is happening and how you can be a catalyst of change inside your organization to drive what is next for the platform engineering for that. So let's just start with the first pillar of the message, which is the AI native platform. I think in your organization, whoever you speak with, from the management to your peers to the developers, everybody is looking AI applications for that. First and foremost, the platform engineering 2.0 has to enable is that AI workload running native on the platform for that. There is a lot of discussion on AI applications to build. But the what platform has to do, not just enable the building the application, but also governing and protecting, which is the next big thing which the platform has to deliver for that. The second thing is that infrastructure provisioning for the AI applications here, like the GPUs, the provisioning, the model serving, registries, the MCP server. MCP servers have grown the need in terms of just last 9 months for that. So this is a very fast moving field for that. So that's the reason the platform requires a very strong agility, especially in the AI era for that. It's not just about the AI workloads. I think writing on the wall or the biggest growth area is the AI agents for that. Today, there are 30 to 33 million developers for that. But I think that number will be outnumbered pretty soon, the number of AI agents who are going to use the platform for that. Yes, AI agents have their uh, definition of doing reasoning, planning, using tools, executing commands with human in loop or without human in loop, but they have a very bounded scope for that. And we see AI agents will benefit or use the platform. They will be like a platform citizen, just like the developers are there for that. And we see two kinds of agents evolving there. One is the agents which customers are going to write for their customers, for their employees, for their partners, for their process automation for that. The second part of the AI agent is the agents specifically for the platform itself for that. Imagine the agents doing a triage for the incidents or the maybe the from security incidents, maybe a developer asking a environment in a natural language and the agents orchestrate the whole platform for that. But the bigger need for AI agents is going to be here is the putting the guardrails here. I'm sure you heard before some organization was using the agents and it deleted the 6 months of customer data. That there are a lot of news you see there. So there is a much stronger need for the AI agents, but with the guardrails for that. And the nirvana or the long-term future is that when multiple agents, control loops, policy engines all work together, that's where the platform becomes the uh, autonomous there. It self-healing, self-optimization. There are multiple capabilities come under the autonomous platform. But that's a little bit far off. What the urgent need right now is that AI workload natives on the platform addressing those needs of the human developers for the building the AI application and also the agents for that. The underlying principle is again the infrastructure here, single platform for all applications, whether you have AI applications, whether you have Kubernetes based application or the VM application, you should be able to build any kind of application on the same platform. There are a lot of benefits associated with that because it gives the consistent policy, consistent operation, security, and also a better resource utilization for that. Of course, customer can choose to build a different platform itself or deploy another platform just for very specific requirement, but platform should be able to do. The good news is that many of the platform, including from the VCF today, support AI native workloads on the platform. It support the AI agents on the platform. They have very vibrant roadmap to support this. Even today, VCF supports a single platform for all the applications today, which you are very aware. But today's discussion is not about the VCF. Today's discussion is about that where market is evolving for that. Number two, multi-persona experience. Sam talked about that the original platform engineering has a one goal: improve the developer productivity. The second persona who built and used the platform was, of course, the platform engineering. We see a new personas using and benefiting from the platform. Three of them are the human persona. Each has unique needs for that. The engineering and business leaders are going to look for the FinOps transparency. They are going to look for predictability. They are going to look at the developer satisfaction or ROI for that. Data scientists and ML engineers have unique needs for that, like the self GPU provisioning for model registries, experiment tracking for that, security compliance team, which many of you are yourself are in the today's audience, is going to look for how do I implement policy as a code for that? How do I move from static compliance to a continuous compliance for that? How do I do the auto remediation? So all these personas will have their unique platform needs. They will need a unique experience layer for that. They will need their own dashboard. They will need their own abstraction. But it's no more just about the humans. It's also about the non-humans. Of course, not the aliens, but certainly the AI agents. AI agents has to be catered by platform by giving the APIs for that, giving them the scoped permission for that, giving the auto audit logging, and many, many more functionality for AI agents is going to expect from the platform for that. And time horizon for that is now. Its time horizon is near future, depending on the which organization you work. But the urgency over here is the guardrails for that. So when we present to the analyst and we talk about this is kind of the slide which binds all different personas into the organization. And then you will see that why the platform engineering 2.0 has to serve so many personas with individual needs associated with that. Moving to the third pillar today is the embedded FinOps. In platform engineering 1.0, developer productivity was the first class signal, and that was the only first class signal into that. Especially when there is so much heavy cost, cloud waste is happening, there is so much budget flattening happening in the organization. Cost is becoming a first class signal for any IT organization, including any platform for that. But in platform engineering 1.0, FinOps was more like a bolt-on, more reactive, more siloed associated with that. There is a significant spend waste there. I'm sure you have read the even the VMware's recent private cloud study, which showed 30 to 35% cloud waste is already happening. But wherever you go, you see there is a significant amount of the cloud waste, less productivity in public cloud, limited visibility. Developers are also ignoring the cost management, half of them. But the good news over there is that 60% of them wants to manage or control the cost, what they are using it today. But the reality is that it is very hard to optimize the cost. As a practitioner, you know that how difficult it is to identify orphaned or unused cloud resources. Maybe it could be a GPU, it could be a storage, or it could be a CPU. It is so hard. And resizing them is further hard for that. So those are some of the challenges with platform engineering had because FinOps was an afterthought in the platform engineering 1.0. In platform engineering 2.0, the FinOps is embedded into the platform. As you as an infrastructure, this is one of the very critical part here that infrastructure is where the cost originates. Infrastructure is where it can be governed best into that. So you build the platform which is cost aware by default. Imagine an example a developer wants to spin up a new environment, it should be able to tell proactively, if you run this environment in a public cloud, this is going to be your cost. If you do it in your on-prem cloud infrastructure, uh, your cost is going to be 35% less for that. It should be able to tell you this is your budget, but you are exceeding the budget over here. Just like when I book the travel for the Broadcom, it tells me if I want to fly to Boston, the cheapest ticket is $300, but we allow you up to $100 more to can travel comfortably. But your current ticket, which you're buying, is beyond that limit. So you need a special permission. So those pre-deployment cost gates are required for that. I'm sure in your organization, you have already heard that token maxing is happening, the bragging rights that oh, I use all the AI tokens. That fundamentally changing how the FinOps has to run. Some companies have stopped, even very large hyperscalers have stopped giving the tokens or stopped some of the AI projects because it's so expensive. Platform is the place to put the token economics into that. And also, autonomous janitors, resizing agents. And if you feel that even in your organization, if you have unused jumbo or unused capacity of VMs which nobody knows or orphan, just write a number one in the one of the chart windows so we know that you see these problems into that. So these are the problems which platform engineering 2.0 has to solve. But fundamental thing which platform engineering 2.0 does for the embedded FinOps that it moves from visibility to influencing the decisions into the provisioning. And when you do that, every developer, every operator is very, very important. Operator is one of you who is building this platform or you are monitoring this platform, becomes the FinOps practitioner for that. And this is going to be very, very critical. You know that how the cost of hardware, cost of infrastructure, the cloud costs are increasing when the budgets are flat for that. So this is a very, very critical part, and you can play a very significant role in your organization for the FinOps for that. Moving to the third pillar for security, shifts down for that. Sam talked about the security shift left security. It was a great concept. It was reasonably well successful. But two things happened. It increased the cognitive load on developer. Second bigger issue was that most of the vulnerabilities is still found in the production for that. Because production environment constantly change, the configuration change, and worst part that even they have vulnerabilities are found, it takes very long for remediation. So what the platform engineering has to do is that complement shift left security with shift down into that. And that is by catching everything else which shift left could not do that. The best practice for that is security embedded deep into the infrastructure, like secure by default, least privilege, mutual TLS, micro-segmentation, secrets rotation, implementing consistently with the policy as a code for that. Compliance not being a static quarterly thing, it's going to be enforceable on a continuous basis for that. And you further supplement with runtime security, policy enforcement in the runtime. And you as a VMUG member who build this infrastructure and you implement security, this is your sweet spot to drive that transformation into your organization and complementing the shift down the security into the infrastructure for platform engineering 2.0. Second part is that how security is widening the gap. Sorry, AI is widening the security gap. The platform 2.0 also have to address that for that. And AI is opening brand new security vulnerability surface for that. You will see many examples here. The shadow IT is sprawl there. The prompt injection, model poisoning. People are pulling registries without any signing or without any poisoning check. That inference data leaks. I'm sure many of you or some of you have the unregistered models in your environment. You are using AI tools which are not approved for that. There are hardly any governance. So that creates a brand new attack surface or a vulnerability surface for any organization. And AI is fueling that. When you add the agents into that, it further goes further to that. So what platform engineering has to do is multiple things. First two are reasonably easy and can be done pretty quickly. One is the model registry governance for that. So everything version model registry with provenance tracking from where it is coming, what is approved, doing the drift monitoring. And by the way, VCF does first two things today already. The data isolation for the governance perspective, even for inference. These are the two things can be done pretty quickly and immediately. But where the platform engineering has to evolve for enforcing more prompt security, more inference audit, that's where some additional tools will come into that. But the security becomes the trust boundary. It is not only just securing the data, it is securing the models, it is securing the inference, which platform engineering 1.0 has no clue or was completely invisible. So that's where the platform engineering 2.0 has to evolve to implement security for the private AI. And equally important there is going to be audit ready by default because agents will require a very strong auditing over there for which current platform engineering doesn't support those models into that. Coming to the last pillar, composable by design. You have learned this concept very long enough, or you already know. But the key point here is the for composable architecture. All these best of the breed building blocks are connected through a well-defined contract with a lot of APIs for that. And the whole objective over here is that repavability. When you want to change one layer component to another component in the same layer, those changes should not cascade across the layers for that. Imagine if you want to change a one CNI to another CNI in your infrastructure, when you want to change one CI/CD tool with another one, those changes should not cascade over here. You see some of the examples here. You see the 5 layers over here. So the message here is each layer should be independently evolvable there. And platform engineering should follow these 4 composable design principles. They are not different. They have been there for a very long time, but the need or the urgency is used. Let me give you an example. When Platform Engineering 1.0 started, CNCF has only 50 projects. There are more than 200 projects today. When the platform engineering, there was a handful of CI/CD tools. There are multiple CI/CD tools. Even CNI, there are at least 6, 7 different CNI choices each organization have. Which one do I use? When do I use? How long do I use? Can I do it together? Can I use both of them? That's where the progressive migration is going to be very critical for that. We believe that the future of platform is not going to be build versus buy. This is going to be composed. We do realize there will be very small number of customer who will take a pre-built-in platform. Yes, they are good for that. But most of the progressive organization is going to compose their platform engineering, and that's where the ecosystem integration, ability to repave pretty quickly when I change from one component to another component, I should be able to rebuild platform pretty quickly with confidence and with the assured success associated with that. So you see 5 pillars over here: AI native platform, multi-persona experience, embedded FinOps, security shift down, and composable. And all those 5 pillars are bounded by the infrastructure, which is the underlying substrate, and you are responsible for it, and you run that and you lead that inside your organization. So that's the reason we wanted to bring into the VMUG global virtual event today. So let's look at what is next. Sam, floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I think it's very clear listening to all of this, hopefully, that this is a big opportunity, really. And I would really recommend taking a look at the report that Pankaj and I have put together on all of this. And a key thing in order to embrace this opportunity is some strategic recommendations that we've put together. So the first one for executives, so make sure you share this with your boss or your boss's boss. They need to think about mandating PE as a business case. So make sure that this evolution of platform engineering isn't something that you're just thinking, oh, this is cool, that you're actually really mandating it. Think about how you can tie platform investment to developer velocity, cloud cost reduction, AI readiness metrics. Really think about establishing a platform P&L very early. You can't just see this as a this thing that's happening. You need to start thinking about, okay, what is the actual cost of this? What's the profit? How do we quantify that profit? So, really think about the FinOps grade cost attribution, the ROI dashboards, and then of course, set a 12-month minimum AI native platform milestone. You really need to have AI workload support within the next planning cycle. It's not something that you can wait for. It is a fundamental thing that you need as soon as possible. Now, for the platform engineer, what are some of the things that you need to be thinking about immediately? Well, you need to think about, remember, the different persona groups. So go and define that distinct experience layer for each persona. So what does that mean for the application developer, for the platform engineer themselves, for the security team, for data scientists, or for the AI agent? You really need to have that experience layer kind of mapped out for yourself. As always, adopt API first composable architecture. Absolutely, absolutely key. If you have not yet already and you're not thinking about it, you need to embed security and FinOps at the platform layer by design. Like I talked about, if you're waiting 30 days until your FinOps review, you're going to have a very, very, very unhappy, I think, everybody once you get to that meeting and you think, oh, whoops. So you need to be embedding FinOps and security by design. At the same time, if you're not preparing for agentic infrastructure, you are definitely making a big, big mistake. Agents are the future. I can tell you this fundamentally. I've been to probably, I think, what, 9 major conferences this year. I get the opportunity to talk to a lot of people. There isn't a single engineering leader who isn't thinking about how they are approaching agents, building their own agents, embedding agents. And you as a platform team or your platform team will be the ones responsible for this agentic infrastructure. So how are you going to build it? How are you going to drive it? How are you going to be an engine that delivers that value? So really, again, like I said, think about all of these things like opportunities because they really are an opportunity. If you're not a platform engineer yet, come to the table with some of these things. So what should you as someone in the VMUG community do if you're not a platform engineer yet? Well, first things first, of course, download the report. Pankaj and I tried to be as detailed as we can, but there's about 8,000 words in there, 40 pages. We really break down a lot of the fundamentals in here and go read that report. I think will be super useful for you. And then if you're not a platform engineer yet, you need to get a seat at that table. So when you get the chance, take a look back at those recommendations we looked at there and think about, okay, well, if my platform team needs to be thinking about all these things, what can I bring to them to help? What can I bring to them in relation to AI infrastructure immediately? How can I help them prepare for a multi-persona experience? If you really bring some of that stuff, you can get a seat at that table and help shape the platform. If you're seeing that your platform team, like, hang on a minute, they're over indexing still on application developers. Bring this to them. Bring the report to them and say, hey, guys, I've got some awesome ideas. For the most part, many of them are under pressure from these forces, and they'll be very, very grateful for that. And I will really emphasize if you aren't thinking about how you can be a part of this platform engineering change and be at that table, I think you are making a big mistake. When we look at the fundamental forces shaping the engineering world right now and shaping the world of software, there are things like AI, there are things like sovereignty, there are things like cost, there are certainly things like security and compliance. And it's the platform team that's going to be at the heart of all of that. And if you want to be at the heart of that, then make sure you get a seat at that table. And of course, like I said, key thing is to download the report. So, Pankaj, if you could hop us right over, this QR code will take you right there. I think a fantastic place to start. It's a massive, massive, massive amount of information, but it's all super useful for you. So scan this QR code and then think about some of the stuff you can do in there, how that you can get your seat at that table. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sam. Take a picture, scan, download.
Yeah, take a screenshot of this and send it to do a mass email to everybody in your inbox.
Thank you. If there are any questions, we are happy to answer.
Yeah, certainly.
And if you have any feedback, you can always put your feedback into the chat window. And if you need more deeper session from the
Mm.
VMUG, also make that request, and we can work with the VMUG community team, including our stewards, to bring more sessions for you. Also, stay tuned. There will be a detailed webinar also coming, a series of webinar. We are going to cover that. And if you have an interest that how VCF enables that, do let us know, and we will set up more time with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks so much, everybody.